everybody, it's Chloe here. I hope you're doing very well. As you can see, I'm in a different location at the moment and a bit of a different setup. I have this space in the corner of my house. The wires are a bit crazy and our kitchen that's not yet been built is all down beside me. But I just thought this was a really cute little area. I'm definitely gonna, I think, use my tripod. So we're a bit more up here. Currently you're on a stack of books, which is very fitting. But I just thought we'd try out this new location. The lighting is obviously a bit different because I have a physical window right by me. And I just thought it would be a really nice location to film this week's video. And that is my wrap up for April. Now in April, I read a total of 11 books. A lot of them I did read on Kindle and not the physical copies, and a few of them I did listen to Audible because I did go on holiday and I listened to a lot of audiobooks on the plane as well as physical reading because I get a little bit of travel sick if I'm in a car and physically reading. So I did listen to a lot of these books in between audio and physically reading. So I thought we'd run through them today of all the books that I did read. But first of all, I read the second and third installment in the Villain and Virtues series. Now I do have the third book on pre-order, but it's not due to be delivered till July. So I do have the physical copy coming, but I did read it on my Kindle. The second was the Summon to the Wilds and the third one is Eclipse of the Crown. I loved this series. I cannot recommend it enough. It is the perfect balance of fantasy and romance. It leaves you wanting more. There's so much great storylines and questions to be asked, and the character development as well, which I think is such an important thing in a fantasy series. But I definitely rated both of these 5 stars. Story progression of these characters is really good and it wants you wanting more. And they're floppy, the paperbacks are floppy, and they are absolutely stunning. I have the first book up here. It's right there. So this one can now go and join it on my red shelf. And what I would like to mention is there is character art in these books. There's not much, but I just think they're absolutely beautiful. First of all, let's take a moment for the chapters. The headings are absolutely stunning. And this is a dual POV and it shows you the different characters on the top. So this tells you what character it is. Now, I don't know if the character art was in this book or the first book. I think it might have been the first book. I think it might be in the first book. So this was the first book. How stunning is that? Anyway, so I read the second and third installment of this series and I really, really do solidly recommend it. And I definitely think you should give it a read. Moving swiftly on. One of the next books that I read during the month is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawagachi. I could be really butchering the name and I do sincerely apologise. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I struggled to get through this and I did end up listening to a lot of it on audio strictly because of that fact. I think the main issue for me was that because of course they are not common names to me, I struggled to follow what character was what and I kept having to refer back to the map at the beginning where it tells you who is who, which I found it a bit of an effort. It put a lot of effort into reading the book. And secondly, there isn't chapters in this book. So there's I think 4 short stories in this that all interconnect. And in those 4 stories, some of them I think are one full story and others are split into 2. So they're like 50 to 80 page blocks and they're not in chapters, which I found really difficult because I really struggle to finish that isn't on a direct chapter, which I know is really weird, but I know some people will agree with me. You like to finish on a chapter so when you're starting again or reading or picking up the book again, you know exactly where you're at. This didn't do that, which I found really difficult. Now, what I'm not going to say is that I didn't like the story because I absolutely did. I thought it was very sweet, very heartwarming, and it kind of taught a bit of a lesson. I would definitely like to carry on reading these, but do I think it was groundbreaking and amazing as I was kind of anticipating? No, but I definitely did like it. I can't remember what I rated this, but all of my ratings, as always, will be on the screen with what I rated them from Goodreads. But overall, will I continue to read these? Absolutely. I do think they're light-hearted, but now I kind of know the setup of them. I definitely am more prepared going into the next books. But overall, I do think it was very sweet and I would recommend it to anyone really. Now we have a classic, which is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I found this quite tricky to read and I had to, again, kind of read this in small blocks because it's quite confusing. Read into this and I read up on it a little bit to try and give myself a bit more of an understanding because my concern with this book is that I would struggle with the language, and I did a little bit in some cases, and I think that's just me being a little bit ill-educated in how the the language has changed to now. And I think that's also from a lack of reading more classical books, which I haven't done. This is one of the first classical books I picked up. I have also read The Great Gatsby, which I did enjoy. I wouldn't say I disliked this, and I wouldn't say I absolutely loved it. I liked it, and I definitely think I need to read it again so I can gain a bit more of an appreciation for it and understand the story a little bit more. I also think it'd be quite nice for me to watch the movies, and now I know, of course, they aren't always accurate to the books, and especially the new one. I know a lot of people don't like Heathcliff is represented compared to how he was written in the books, and that's understandable, but maybe it will help me gain a little bit more of an understanding of the storyline of maybe an earlier published film of Wuthering Heights rather than the most recent one. But do I think I would recommend this? Yes, but I definitely do think that it is quite a hard read. I think I rated this 3 stars. Another book that I read during the month of April is First Time Caller. Now, I absolutely love this. B.K. Borison, you did it again. I have not read a book so far by B.K. Borison that I have not enjoyed. We'll absolutely be reading Now Back to You very soon because I don't know if I can wait much longer. I thought it was very sweet. I loved the characters. I thought the storyline was cute. I thought their meet cute was cute. There's not a lot about this I didn't like, and I just think it was a really, really sweet book, and I did physically read this book, and I absolutely loved all of the dialogue from the radio show in between the chapters. I thought it added a really nice touch. The thing that I thought was quite odd, now maybe this is just me, but based off the cover I would assume that Lucy has red hair, natural red hair. It's brown. And I know this is irrelevant and it's definitely just a me thing, but I really wanted her to have ginger hair because I think that makes her character so much more unique. But I know that's really like irrelevant, but to me, I was very sad when he was describing her when he first saw her, and he didn't say anything like her copper hair or like, why? Why can't he do like a Isaiah Rhodes situation? Why can't... So that's my only nitpicky thing, but I think that's more of a design flaw on the cover. It's left me... I felt a bit deceived. Because, I mean, come on. How could I not expect her to have ginger hair? She's literally ginger on the cover. Do I love this story? Yes. I love the fact that she's a single mom, but she works with the dad. I love that storyline, and I love how they're like a family unit. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Can't wait to read the second one. I think I rated this 5 stars. It could have been 4. 5. Either way, I really, really enjoyed this book. I think it's only right to mention these together. I read the next instalments in the Shatter Me series. Now, as you will know, I've now got only 2 books left, which I just picked for my TBR for May, and I cannot wait to get my hands on those. But these are the books that I read, Defy Me and Find Me. No notes. Absolutely love this series. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I think I rated both 5 stars. This is from Kenji's perspective, which I absolutely love Kenji, and I preferred that over any other of the novellas so far. This is definitely the best novella. I think I did rate this 5 stars. I love Kenji. I love getting Kenji's side of things, and I think he is a very underrated character. Well, he's not underrated, everyone loves him, but I think you don't get enough of his perspective and his storyline, and I'd really, really hope that in the next novella we learn more about Kenji or anything like that. I rated both of these 5 stars. I'm not going to go into these too much and be too crazy about them because honestly, no notes from me. Tahira Mafi, you've done a great job yet again, and I can't wait to read the final instalments. I also read The Favourites by Lane Fargo during the month of April. Now, I really enjoyed this book. It kind of gave me the same vibes as Daisy Jones and the Six. And what I mean by that is it follows a timeline of people and their timeline of opinions, except this is only from the perspective of the FMC, which I definitely think if we got a perspective from somebody else, the story would have been very different. And I do kind of appreciate that this was a one-sided opinion during the story, and I don't know, there were some characters in this that I liked and didn't like, and it was a very difficult read at times, but not necessarily in a bad way, but because the characters were so well written that you had very strong opinions and feelings about their actions, which I guess is what a good writer does. It gave me Daisy Jones and the Six in the fact that there were interviews throughout this book of different opinions, whether that be from judges at ice skating events or it be gossip bloggers, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really interesting read, and I did do a lot of this via Audible as well, and I'm very glad that I did. I think it really did justice to the premise and the style of the story. But yeah, it gave me Daisy Jones and the Six vibes, and maybe that is because I did Daisy Jones on the Six mainly via Audible as well, because I felt that did that justice. The same could go for this. I loved it. I really enjoyed this. I think I rated this 4 to 5 stars. Do I like how it ended? I'm still mixed. Do I think that Heath deserved what he got? I don't know. I'm still very mixed on how I feel. I have strong opinions on Heath, and I don't know if they're good or bad yet. I've not figured them out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think either of the characters are good nor bad people. I think both of them made a lot of bad decisions and mistakes, but I think that kind of adds to the story because you're watching them grow up from teenagers into adulthood while also trying to compete nationally and into an Olympic level, which leads to a lot of hardships and a lot of friendships breaking and a lot of decisions to be made. And I think that was a really, really interesting book to read, and reading it from one perspective instead of a dual perspective, so you're only getting one side of the story. And I think I'd be really intrigued if Lane Fargo released a secondary book of this following the complete other person's perspective. I think that'd be really, really interesting. But yeah, I did enjoy this, and I understand why people love it. Another book that I read during the month of April, which wasn't actually on my TBR, it was calling my name, and it was very much a mood pick for me, was Any Trope But You by Victoria Levine. I loved this. I thought the FMC in this book, I loved her humour. I thought she was hilarious, and I really was drawn in within the first chapter of her perspective. She very much is my cup of tea and my sense of humour. And I just loved this. I really liked it. It was the very stereotypical, it had every trope of a romance novel, but that is the purpose of this story. He is a romance writer who has been shunned by her fans due to having this diary that's been kept of how she really feels her story's ended, which of course is negatively, and that is based and reflected surely off of her own story and her own bad luck with love. All of these romance novels that she's written alternative endings, and sadly this was leaked, and because of that she was shipped off to Alaska by her sister to go and get some kind of reprieve from the world and get a bit of a break, where she meets the main male protagonist, Forrest. I love this. I'm not going to say any more than that, but I just think it was a really lovely fun read, a really light read, and I would certainly recommend this. One of the long-awaited books that I've been wanting to read is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Now, there are lots of Emily Henry books that I have yet to read. This is, in fact, the first one that I have read by her. I know that some people love this, some people hate this. I really liked it. However, the way Poppy was written in the book, I actually preferred film Poppy, which isn't something that normally I would say. And by that I mean just the way that her personality comes across. Now, she is very laughy and jokey in this with Alex, but I do feel like in this obviously we get a lot more of her inner thoughts and opinions, and I find that really interesting that in the book she very much is, I think she loves Alex a lot earlier than it's ever portrayed in the film. Now, it is a difficult opinion for me to have because I did watch the movie first. Do I prefer the book? In a lot of ways, yes, but in a lot of ways, no. I do think in the book that there is a lot more storyline to it. I also like that in the book there isn't really a cheating trope, which I feel like there's emotional cheating in the movie that isn't in the book. He is on and off with Sarah a lot, but I believe at the time when anything happened that he wasn't with Sarah, so there wasn't that element that I think was there. Do I think there's still an emotional cheating trope throughout? Yes, but I think that's more of a friendship that they don't think they can go anymore with it. I liked it. I also am sad that the balcony scene, if you know, you know, was not in the movie, because I feel like that would have took it up a notch. And last and certainly not least, the last book that I finished in the month of April was Iron Flame. I love this. This is a chunky book. I did a lot of this via Audible as well, and that is strictly because if I only read this, I think I'd hardly have read anything else during the month of April, and it was a bit too bulky to take on holiday with me. I really liked this. I do think it set up a great start for the third book. I'm intrigued to see how the storyline progresses with Xaden. because we've just found out something really interesting about him in this book. And I'm excited and intrigued to see how that is going to progress into the third book. So those are all the books that I've read during the month of April. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And yeah, I'll see you again soon. Bye.